Well, everyone, the Google Pixel 5 has actually been out for about 6 months now, which is so crazy. And just like how I talked about the iPhone 12s, the 12 Pros, all these other devices, it's always good to look back in the last couple of months and see how this phone has held up, the price tag of it then versus now, the durability of it, problems that came up, because, this phone is not the same as it was 6 months ago. And that's a very important thing to keep in mind. Now, funny enough, the backstory, Google actually sent me out this phone. Obviously, they didn't sponsor any videos or anything, but I was surprised they even sent it to me because I bashed the Pixel 5 like crazy. They also sent me the 4a, the Pixel 4a, and I bashed the Pixel 4. I think it was one of the worst Pixels ever made, probably behind the Pixel 3 XL, and I bashed the 3 XL, but they still sent it out to me, which was pretty cool. Now, luckily for them, the Pixel 4a was, $349, very cheap device, and the Pixel 5 was almost in that same dimension. They were not trying to go for the super flagship price device. They were going more so for a phone that is more like an iPhone 12 or iPhone 11, kind of competitor, more than this top series. And I think that was a very smart thing that, Google did at the time. This makes it so Google is situated more so, and, we can kind of like go away with some things like, okay, not a 1440p panel, not maybe the best quality, but it's still a very good phone for the price tag, in my opinion. Now, 6 months later, this phone has gone down in value a little bit, about $50 here and there in the used market, certified refurbished. On Amazon, you can pick them up for like around $670, and I will leave one link down below. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now, with the Pixel 5, the panel of it is still beautiful. Nothing has really changed there, which is a really big, important thing to keep in mind. The whole punch display looks great. There hasn't really been any crazy defects with this panel so far, which is always good to see, and it still feels good in the hand. Nothing super crazy. A 90Hz refresh rate, which I'm still super happy about. The front of this panel is definitely not a bad thing, and I compared it, just a couple months ago to the Galaxy S21, and I did kind of see that the Pixel 5 had some cool capability. Even though the S21's panel may be better, the Pixel 5 is pretty close for being a little bit cheaper, so I think that still holds up well. Obviously, USB-C, the build quality is still the same. The back of this phone was kind of hit or miss. I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I'm sure there are people who like that, and it still hasn't grown on me, but I think I've kind of become more compatible with this phone, if that makes sense, in terms of the feeling of the hand. I think mostly I got used to it, so that's not really a big deal to me. I'm kind of, the one issue that I did kind of have with this phone was the fact that it didn't have an inbuilt fingerprint sensor in the display. You still have a, hard one on the back. I'm not a huge fan of it. Hopefully Google changes this with the Pixel 6, but based off the rumors, the Pixel 6 is going to be a humongous change from the predecessor to this one. I'm telling you, if the Pixel 6 ends up using Google's own chipset inside of it, just like what Samsung did and what Apple did, with the Exynos and M1 chip respectively, we could be seeing a humongous shift in what manufacturers end up using for chip-wise. Usually it's Qualcomm. They may be switching over to Google if this ends up being the case, just like how Apple's M1 chip is. So in terms of the outside, that kind of covers up, I guess, a majority of the things. Nothing super crazy has changed. The camera, though, is one of those things that I'm really happy about still. I'm not going to go do a 30-minute review of this camera, but I will tell you, since this phone came out, I've been comparing it. You guys have seen those videos I've dropped with it. I drop like 50 videos a day. I did, a comparison of the Pixel 5 with the iPhone 12, the Galaxy S21, I think the S21 Plus as well, and maybe some other phones here and there. And ultimately, I think the OnePlus 9 did a comparison as well. And I pretty much said I think the Pixel 5's camera is probably the top tier one. The only thing that it's missing is really that telephoto lens and possibly 4K at 60 on the front. The telephoto lens I'm like kind of indifferent at, because it's okay if it doesn't have one. The ultra-wide sensor I'm really glad this thing has is a good camera for sure, but there's no 4K at 60 on the front, and that is more of an issue now than probably ever. We see with the Galaxy S21's 4K at 60 on the front, and it's kind of sad that Samsung has actually decreased the price tag of the Galaxy S21, because that is no longer kind of a competitor to the 12 Pro series anymore, or the higher end devices. That is more so a competitor to the Pixel 5 and the iPhone 12s now. So that's kind of a big thing to keep in mind. I think the Galaxy S21 is the more well-rounded device, but the Pixel 5's camera I think is good enough for the most part. Again, I am saddened because this thing has no 4K 60 on the front. Hopefully the Pixel 6 will be that humongous change that Google needs for that whole entire Pixel lineup series. But so far, I still think the camera's great, and anytime I do anything with this phone, it handles it in a camera standpoint. Now, Again, one of the biggest things about this phone, or one of the most important things about this phone, is the software experience. And luckily for us, this thing's running stock Android. No issues on my end since the day I booted it up. All those videos I do on my second channel revolving Android, I typically use this phone or the Samsung, and this one has been doing a really good job in my opinion. However, and this is a humongous plus, stock Android, Google, you guys already know this, anytime an Android version comes out, Google Pixel is one of the first devices to get that. It's not one of the, it is the first device to pick up that specific software version. And in this specific case, Android 12 actually came out in like a developer pre-alpha beta. It was completely before even the beta, and I was actually able to install it on my Pixel 5 extremely easily. Typically I have to do a bunch of crazy things, unlock the bootloader and all this stuff. I was able to do all this straight from my web browser, which was amazing. So I was able to install Android 12. That was a pretty big development within the last couple of months. I think about a month and a half ago I did that, and it was a great experience. The betas are running very well on my Pixel 5. I have to update the videos I've done on it, but I've been updating it as soon as the beta comes out, and it's been a great experience. No issues like that. So that's another pretty big advantage. Android 12 is already looking to be a pretty stable version of Android or software on our Pixel devices. So that's a massive thing to keep in mind as well. And I guess you have to end it off with the performance. I mean, this phone's performance is still top tier. I still think it's a very good performing phone. I will say, since the release, I've compared it to the S21s, the OnePlus 9, the iPhone 12s. This phone, although it is slower here and there, I feel like it's still a smoother experience overall. But on top of that, I feel like even though this thing doesn't have the latest, top tier, 888 chipset, it's still with that 765G chipset, it's really not that bad. You have 8 gigs of RAM, and I truly do believe that against the OnePlus 9 and 9 Pro, this thing isn't really that far off. Of course, the 9 and 9 Pro have top tier RAM version, so you can go and get more RAM if you want to on the 9 Pro, I think. But this one is still a very good performing phone for the price tag and for what it is, being 6 months old. This isn't the latest phone, and it doesn't even have the best top tier chipset, but it's still a very good performing phone with what it has. So imagine this, and this is what I'll tell you and what I'll end off with. If the Pixel 5 is this good of a phone, right? It's amazing. I think it's amazing. I think it's a really good phone. I don't think it's the best phone. I think, to be honest, I think the S21 has more features, and if these were the same price, I'll probably end up getting an S21. But if this phone is already this great, I'm just imagining the Pixel 6 with a Google chipset inside of it. That would be insane. The Whitechapel chipset, or whatever they're going to call it, if this truly has a G1 chipset or whatever they're going to call it, and it doesn't use that standard Snapdragon stuff, I mean, this could be a humongous, monumental change on what the next iteration, the next 5 to 10 years of Android are going to look like. We've historically pretty much always used Snapdragon. We've used a couple here and there, but Snapdragon is the main player. Imagine switching away from that and having the same manufacturer that builds the software to build the chipset inside of it. Look at iOS. That's exactly what iPhones are. That's why the software is so well managed and, great battery life. You don't need the craziest amount of specs to, have the best type of performance. The iPhone 12, 4 gigs of RAM outperforms my S21 sometimes in terms of RAM management as well. So imagine that. That's going to be crazy. And I feel like it's still underhyped. I really don't think people understand what's going to happen here probably in the next 5 to 10 years. But I've seen this time and time again. This is probably going to be the biggest change with the Pixel 6. Hopefully, if the leaks are coming true. If not, I've spent all this time worrying about nothing. But that's essentially it. I think the Pixel 5 is completely worth it, and I would highly recommend you guys to pick it up if you get the chance. It's worth it more now than 6 months ago, in my opinion. So in terms of that covers it. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys can hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly, everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.